Hey, what's up, Silver Stackers? Thank you for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer, so let's talk about how much silver you actually need. First, though, I'm sure that you've all heard about that billionaire who purchased $50 million in silver last month. Well, the company she placed that order with is Miles Franklin. I'm now officially partnered with them, and needless to say, they are the most well respected, legitimate precious metals dealer on the market, ran by no other than Andy Scheckman, who's good friends with David Morgan and all the big dogs. I mean, if a billionaire trusts their money with this company, that speaks for itself. I have a special discount sale going on right now from my new partnership where you can get Britannias and Krugerrands at only $4.50 over spot. Now, to purchase from Miles Franklin, just send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Ask what they have in stock, or if you want to grab that Slayer discount deal as well. Be sure to let them know Slayer sent you, and I am positive Andy would love to hear that since I'm new to the team. This isn't just a big bullion dealer. These are really good guys behind the scenes, and this is just a way for you to directly buy from the top dogs in the game. I'll put an email in the description, and just be sure you let them know I sent you, and by doing that, you're also helping support me for free. There will be a website up and running in a few weeks, but in the meantime, that's how you purchase. Just remember to let them know I sent you, and they will be glad to hear it. Now, I'm about to ask you a question, and I would love for you all to participate in the comment section below. Here is the question. How much gold and silver should you own? How much gold and silver is needed for a financial crisis? How much gold and silver should you consider owning? How much silver should I own? How much physical silver should you own in your investment? How much should I invest in the precious metals? How much gold and silver should people own? I think you know what the topic of this video is now. Do you have any type of idea? Have you ever even thought about that? Do you have a goal? Is it 100 ounces, 500 ounces, 1,000, 10,000? What is it? I think it is important to reflect upon this so we're not just aimlessly buying. We have to budget, and that's a topic I want to talk about later in the video is budgeting. Just because you can buy 100 ounces from your last paycheck doesn't mean you can afford to buy 100 ounces from that paycheck. There's a big difference between being able to buy something and being able to afford to buy something. So yeah, every time, and this is why sometimes I like making videos just more specific, because these articles are never going to say an actual number. They're just gonna, they're gonna tiptoe around the question, but never actually answer the question. I'm gonna do some math in this video, and we're gonna look at actual numbers. Now, you gotta remember though, everyone has a different financial situation, right? Makes more or less money, has a longer or shorter exit strategy. Some people might be selling in 5 years, some people might be younger, in their 30s, 20s, and might not be planning on selling for 30 years. Some people have less or more silver than each other. Someone might be new. Someone might have already been stacking for 20, 30 years. There's a wide range. So we can't answer this. I just can't give you an answer. You have to reflect upon this yourself, and when I go over the calculations, it's going to make a lot of sense. And let me put it this way, just to really break down why I say that the context leading up to that. For a college student, making $20,000 might be fine, might be more than enough, whatever. But let's say you're retired and you're looking for actual financial freedom, right? The college student, if he has 1,000 ounces and he sells at $100, right? $100,000 is more than enough. But let's say you're in your 60s, 1,000 ounces sold at $100 is not enough. See what I'm saying? $100,000 to someone who's older, retired, compared to someone who's younger. So you can see how those two will have different goals. Those two have completely different goals in what their term of success is. So I'm going to look at numbers realistic for each person in this video. So let's look at this. How much gold and silver should you own? The link to these articles will be in the description. I'm probably going to try to hover over and just highlight the main points of these because I know a lot of them aren't going to say much. So let's look. Let's see. I want to see if they actually answer the question. Okay, they're just talking about why people buy silver. Wow, they literally didn't answer the question. Oh, they're just saying do it through an ETF. Wow, okay. Next, how much gold and silver should you consider owning? Okay, here we go. Others suggest 25%. Okay, so some analysts recommend allocating 5 to 10% of your portfolio towards gold and silver. Others suggest allocating up to 25%. Wow. Okay, so what about you? First of all, screw all the digital stuff. Let's talk about physical. If you can't hold it, you don't own it. If you can't hold it, you don't own it. I want to look at actual numbers, and I don't want to look at percentages. I want to look at ounces, right? That's what I hate about a lot of these articles. You know, they'll make this article titled this, but it after you read the article, you're still just as curious. No, yeah, you actually have more questions now than answers. Let's move on. How much gold or how much silver should I own? Have you ever thought about buying silver? Maybe you've gone to coin stores, visit the post office, and wondered if you should buy some coins. Maybe instead, you have some concerns over the macroeconomic landscape. Is silver a good hedge? We already know that question. Let's look at the numbers. I hate how these articles have all this other stuff in there. Just get to the meat and potatoes. Okay, so they say we do not recommend exceeding the 25% cap in bullion or any asset. That's interesting. So that means 75% of the rest of your portfolio is pegged to the dollar, which is inevitably collapsing. Okay, that makes sense. If anything, all the other things you're investing in, whether it's stocks or crypto, use the profits of that to reinvest back into precious metal because that's the only thing of real value that's going to hold its value. I like, some people say this, I've heard this. One answer is, how much should I buy is enough ounces to bail yourself out. And that's actually what this next one, where's it at? This one has a chart that shows a similar thing. So let's say your monthly expenses are $2,500. At the time of writing, the current spot price is $21 Canadian dollars. Divide that by 2,000 and get the amount of ounces you could own. There you have it. You get 117 ounces of silver. So if you owned 118 ounces of silver, you could cover your expenses for 1 month. That's a rough budget-based solution. That's very mediocre stacker. Now let's go into this graph since they broke the ice there. Now here is how many ounces of silver to meet expenses during a crisis. It goes over your monthly expenses as in $500 all the way to $20,000. So here's your monthly expenses in silver ounces. 25 ounces, which would be 6 months, but then up to 5 years would be 1,500 ounces. So let's say your monthly expenses are $20,000. That means your monthly expenses in silver would be 1,000 ounces. So that's, obviously 6 months would be 6,000. So a $500 a month supplement would need 300 ounces of silver to get through 1 year, or 1,500 ounces for 5 years. If you want $3,000 a month, you'll need 1,800 ounces for 1 year, or 9,000 if it lasts 5 years. Now you could actually flip this table backwards and just look at it from the opposite point of view, because they're comparing it as if a crisis happens or something, and all you have is silver. How you could get through it for up to 5 years or 9 years or whatever. But anyways, I like this point they make right here. These amounts may look high, but keep in mind, if you don't save in gold and silver now, you'll be forced to spend a whole lot more in currency later. Because remember, the dollar is inflating. So the money you left in your bank instead of putting into silver, you're actually going to be paying a lot more. So when you buy it in silver, it's consolidated. It's concrete, set in stone at whatever you, however much, $20 an ounce. But if you kept that $20 in your bank account instead, that $20 is diminishing. So you're reserving your money. It's a hedge against inflation. So now let's look at this one. How much physical silver should you own in your investment? Oh, here we go. There's always one of these guys. And look, it says Bitcoin user since 2000. First off, owning precious metals is not an investment. Okay. And that's because there's no mechanism which you can expect a real gain. See, and of course, I'm not even going to read that because that could break into literally owning silver or other precious metals is a very bad investment strategy. Oh man, I'm getting off this. I could have just went into a 2-hour long tangent ripping apart all of the points they made, but I'm not going to. And the first guy, Bitcoin user, I mean, he has no idea what intrinsic value means. He probably thinks the dollar is perfectly well off, and that's why he said he's comparing it to fiat. Because he said he's determining it off profit when those profits are worthless cash burning away. No matter how much fake money you throw at something will never stick when you're trying to compare it to something that has real value. No amount of fake money can equal something that's real money. So how much should I invest in precious metals? Let's look at this one. Storage may be an issue. That's a very good point. You can fit $100,000 worth of gold in a shoebox. You cannot fit $100,000 worth of gold or silver in a shoebox. So just like the lady that purchased $50 million of silver, she bought 900,000 eagles. Andy filled that order in 2 days, by the way. My boss, it's crazy to say that, my boss, he filled 800,000. He already had 90,000 in stock. He outsourced 800,000 eagles. And if you watch my interview, he explained how he did it. But it's just insane. But regardless, imagine storing 800,000 eagles. Imagine that. You would have to put a lot more in gold for it to be easily storable or somewhat conveniently storable. Because $50 million in gold versus $50 million in silver is it's night and day how easy it would be and how just time consuming and costly. Then you have liquidity issues. That's another good point. But we're not talking about those things. We're talking about how much silver you need. Okay, I like this question. How much gold and silver should a person own? I'm 38 with a wife and 3 kids. My only debt is a mortgage and a small bank loan. Going by your prep list for possible financial collapse, I'm well prepared. My plan is to start buying precious metals mostly as an insurance against dollar devaluation, so heavily assuming you have an extra $1,000 a month. Of course, though, there's no single right answer. I mean, obvious, and that's okay. I'm glad they said this, only because there's so many variables that are dependent on personal circumstances. Just like I said in the beginning, everyone has different financial situations, different exit strategies, likes different type of silver, are going to be selling at different points in time. I mean, there's so many different things, but I do like that at least he gives this guy steps in the right amount of wealth. Insurance is needed to survive a currency failure. To identify a realistic dollar price of gold if it were based solely upon the actual currency supply of the amount of gold held by a U.S. Treasury. That's a pretty interesting point. I kind of like that. Okay, so now let's look at some of these points. Okay, so the combined M1 money supply in the world is about 24 trillion. That includes the U.S., China. So those 4 entities combine 70% global GDP. Official gold around 33,000 tons, 107 million troy ounces. Historically, central banks have run successful gold standards with 20% gold backing. U.S. had 40%. Use a higher number. Okay, yeah. So he says if you back 40% of 24 trillion with the amount of official gold, it implies a gold price around $9,000 an ounce. I predict 10,000. How do I arrive at 10,000? They expect central banks to print a lot more money. The point is, $10,000 is not pie in the sky. It's not a number I pulled out of hat to get headlines. Actual mathematical implied non-deflationary price of gold. Okay, come on. We talk about this a lot. I'm talking about how much silver you need, not what gold's price is mathematically calculated. And so then he's talking about silver would be $333 per ounce. That's him going down to the 30-to-1 ratio. He's not even answering the question. He's just talking about the mathematical equation it is to see what gold and silver's actual price should be worth. Which, by the way, I made a very in-depth video about that the other day with a different mathematical equation. It's the 250-to-1 ratio. Very important. Probably more accurate than this one as well. So goes into although the US dollar is going to fail sooner rather than later, nobody can say exactly when. Okay, let's exit out of all this BS. Let's do this, okay? So let's say most people's first goal is 100 ounces. I should write a blog asking this question, or I guess hopefully people just find this video instead of these blogs. So let's say your first goal is 100 ounces. So 100 ounces and you sell at $100 is $10,000. So obviously that's not enough. Maybe if you're a teenager or something, that's great. But I'm sure most of us are looking for financial freedom. So let's go to 500 ounces. Now remember, there's a good chance that you could be selling your silver a lot higher than $100. So let's theoretically play different numbers. 500 ounces, you sell at $100. We obviously know that is $50,000, but let's say you sell at $250, $125,000. I say 250 because that is a realistic number, not today, not tomorrow, not next year, not even in 2-3 years, but for me, I'm not planning on selling for 15 to 20 years, so $250, that's easily possible, a lot higher too. So that's 125K. And accumulating 500 ounces won't take that long. As long as you're consistently buying every month or whatever, it adds up fast. So let's say I like to do like numbers like even numbers like 100, 500 ounces, 1,000, 5,000. Let's do 5,000 ounces. I know that's a huge stack, but I promise if you keep stacking over the years, maybe some paychecks throw a little more in there, some less, just continuously stack, you'll get there. 5,000 ounces, and obviously you sell at 100, that's $500,000. We're talking about $500,000. Let's say 500 ounces, you sell at 250, 5,000 ounces, you sell at 250, that's $1.25 million. 5,000 ounces, you can get there. Even if you work a minimum wage job, maybe just do some side stuff on the side. But if you can accumulate 5,000 ounces and you hold on to silver for another 10, 15, 20 years and sell at 250, you'll be a millionaire. Now, I know it sounds easy to just say all this, but the whole point is that if you could just keep stacking, don't sell, don't get complacent, separate your wants versus your needs. You don't need that cup of Starbucks, right? Separating your wants versus your needs. But then you also have to remember budgeting. I do know that when you start stacking, silver is very addictive. I used to spend like 75% of my paycheck and end up being broke, usually having to sell some of that silver. I mean, that was when I worked a minimum wage job when I was much, much younger. I've been stacking for like 7 years now. But regardless, you got to learn how to budget, understanding the value of a dollar, understanding the value of silver. Just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can afford to buy it. So remember that. Budget, and over the years, when you start making more money, you can invest more, but just keep stacking, and financial freedom is the end goal and is the end result. So, what is your goal? Is it 1,000 ounces? Is it that 5,000 ounce goal and try to sell at 250? What is it? Let me know. Love for you to know, or I would love to hear what yours is. Hopefully, now you have a better idea, or at least you've thought about the question itself. Just having that idea in your head floating around is important, because imagine someone who's never thought about it, just aimlessly buying. I think it's good to have these numbers in your head just to even just juggle around with. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Remember to go to if you want to buy from Miles Franklin, email info@milesfranklin.com. Um, Ask what they have in stock. Ask what their inventory is. If you want to get the Slayer special, you get Krugerrands and Britannias at 450 over spot. And let them know that Silver Slayer sent you. Andy will love to hear it. It's I'm honored to be working with that company, such a respected company. The website's going to be up soon, in a few weeks, so it'll be easier. I mean, it's still extremely simple. You just email them. They've made like $7 billion in sales or something, probably more. I think more than that, but billions of dollars in sales. So it's a very reliable source, and plus building relationships with someone like that could be a lot more beneficial to find a direct source, a direct buyer, compared to just buying on ATMEX or somewhere where it's just you don't know who you're buying from, you don't know who's on the other end receiving that payment to fill that order. You don't know. But buying from Miles Franklin, you're getting from Andy Scheckman, who's friends with David Morgan. He sponsors Bix Ware. He's friends with Keith Newmeyer from First Majestic Silver. I mean, he has so many connections, and I think it is very beneficial to find just one source that that will always have your back and always will make things right with you and build that relationship with. I think that's really cool that I can offer you that and get that discount. So yeah, email info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know Silver Slayer sent you. They will love to hear it. Thanks for tuning in. The link to some of these articles will be in the description. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.